Supervisor meeting in Halfmoon Township to order. All rise if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will get started. Denise, our township manager, is on Zoom. She will start us off with opening announcements.
Yes, this evening, thank you. We are still being recorded live on CNET's YouTube channel, and if you signed up for the meeting online, you'll get a notification with the recording after the meeting. We're still looking for email addresses. Even if you've provided them to us in the past, we'd like to keep you updated on township happenings and notices. You just go onto our website and click the Contact Us button. And we're also getting ready to reorganize in January, so we're always looking for people to volunteer on various committees or boards. If they're interested, you can check out our website or send me an email. And lastly, there was an executive session held after the October 28th meeting regarding personnel from 8:17 p.m. until 8:54 p.m. where no decisions were made.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we will allow any citizen comments on any items which are not already on the agenda. And I see a hand up in the audience. If you could come up to the table and just state your name and your comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Virginia Squire and I live on Loveville Road. And I am part of a group of concerned citizens who are working to make sure that Halfmoon Township is a welcoming, inclusive, and equitable township. In May, this board voted to recognize Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And at the time, there was some discussion about reluctance to pass a resolution that did not have any teeth or action connected to it. But the board passed it, and some Asian Pacific Americans in the township responded that they felt seen and included, and were very grateful to the township to the board for that gesture. This is the time of year when you as a board are setting your agenda format for next year. And I am here to ask you to put diversity, equity, and inclusion as a standing item on your agenda. Yes, there are going to be times when you won't have anything to report on the topic, but having it there means to the citizens in this township that the board recognizes and values inclusivity. So I'm hoping that you consider my request. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you very much for your consideration.
And what I might do with that comment is maybe at the organizational meeting in 2022, that could be an item that is discussed.
Yes.
Denise, does that sound okay for the organizational meeting?
We can put that on for the organizational meeting, yes.
Thank you. Any other public comments on anything that's not already on the agenda? Anybody in Zoom? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to the approval of our agenda for this evening. If there is anything that we need to move around, edit, adjust, this is the time to do it. Other than that, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
As is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Patty. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alrighty, here we go. The first item on the agenda is actually opening up to a public hearing to discuss proposed changes to an ordinance 2021-03, which is amending the Halfmoon Township Code, Chapter 31, Officers and Employees, Township Manager. So I'm going to go ahead and officially open the public meeting, or public hearing, sorry. And Denise, I'll let you introduce the key changes to the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. This was properly advertised in newspaper general circulation as per second-class township code. It should be noted that the changes that we're making to this were directed by the board for, I was given a year-long provision to live somewhere outside of the area that was required in the original ordinance. I'm currently in Bellefonte, as it was less expensive and easier to find housing for me. So the majority of the changes are those which help the language match what is in the second class township code, but it mostly makes it so that the manager can live within the borders of any of the upper Bald Eagle COG municipalities, any of the center region COG municipalities, or anywhere that isn't within a typical 30-minute commute for a response time. And again, the majority of this is making sure instead of the manager being the manager, secretary, treasurer, it makes it so the manager is the manager, but makes sure that the responsibilities of the treasurer and secretary are carried out so it follows more closely with the second class township code.
At this time, we will entertain any discussion, questions, comments about those changes to the ordinance. That is from public and from the board. Do we have any comments, questions as a board? I think we already talked
yeah,
about
we
this a
just-
little bit too.
Exactly.
So.
We've already talked about
Yeah.
this kind of ad nauseum, so.
And so if there are no public comments, going once, going twice, 3 times, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. And Denise, correct me, I think, did we have this item actually under new business somewhere else to actually approve it?
Yeah, it's lower. in the
Yes, it's
agenda.
under old business item 5A.
Okay, so we'll wait
So
until
we
we
will
get to that item
you
to
can act
actually.
upon that however you choose
Perfect.
when that item comes up.
Awesome. We will do that at that time then. Next is the approval of the minutes from our October 28th meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the October 28th Board of Supervisors meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion, corrections, edits? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, minutes pass. Next, we have our consent agenda, which is basically ratifying the payment of bills for October 23rd through November 5th from the General Fund and Open Space Preservation, and then also approval of payments for November 6th through the 17th from the General Fund, Open Space Preservation Fund, and Parks and Rec Fund. If there are any specific items, we would pull those out individually. If we don't have any questions, we can approve the consent agenda as one motion. So I will entertain that motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's everybody. Moving along to old business. So we have now the action on the ordinance that we just had a public hearing about, which is to amend Ordinance 2021-03 regarding the township manager. So we can entertain approving that ordinance.
I move to approve the ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Alrighty. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Moving along.
We're flying tonight.
I know, yeah. The next piece of the old business is potential Halfmoon Township logo changes. Very exciting. Denise, do you want to pull up the images? I have my
Yes,
favorite.
we have, at the last meeting, we were requesting some changes. The third image is the one that everybody agreed they liked, so we're not gonna be making changes on that. But there was questions on this second image, making this darker with a half moon. 2 came in, one with stars and one without. So I didn't know if the supervisors preferred one or the other. Personally, I think the stars make it nice. But I would like permission to take these 2 with the stars and then the crest to the public for their decisions and feedback.
Did you all get a chance to see them? Can you open them up on the screen?
Yeah, I actually didn't look at them when I was looking at
Can you
the
not
agenda
see,
earlier.
am I not sharing them?
No,
Okay.
we're just seeing the agenda.
Oh, you're not seeing it, hold on.
Is it
Hi, you're worth of
There we
Zoom.
go.
Okay.
Great. There's the one without the stars. Stars. And then the crest.
Can we run through those again?
Yeah, the one with stars is a little tough. You
No
can't.
stars.
No stars.
Stars.
Feel like I'm in a planetarium.
can you go back to the stars? I only had two comments. One, the animals are a little dark, but I'll let others, comment on that. It would be nice maybe if they were gray, they would show up a little bit better or something. And I do like the stars, but my only question would be, depending on how the logo is used on various types of media, t-shirts,
It's not
wherever,
gonna show up.
the stars might not show up, or if we got anything embroidered, I'm not sure how the little tiny stars would show up. So that was my only
Or if it was
comment.
just gray scales, it just gonna look like little dots, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That-
very good point, if it's in a
Yeah.
black and white versus color.
That's what I thought. I like them, but I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking for usability, they might not be
Yeah.
as great.
So that was my only comment, but I love it.
I'm kind of impartial. I like all of the choices. I agree with the stars. I think in this format it looks great with the stars, but you're right. When you embroider it or you put it on a decal or something, it's not going to show up very well. And I honestly, I do really like my own personal preference. I like that crest, but I see how that's an issue with certain things that we try to format. So I don't know, that's all I have on the topic.
Yeah, I'd say
So-
the crest and no stars for me.
Yeah.
So from the perspective of the board, we'll take no stars and crest to the public for their opinions.
Sure.
Dave,
For me.
you guys okay? Dave,
I
Joe?
like the stars, but you're right, it's not gonna embroider, and it may not show up when
Yeah.
it's reduced down on the letterhead.
If it was just on the web or on an
Yeah.
image like that, I
Yeah.
think it would be great, but
Yeah, unfortunately, T-shirts aren't 1940 by 1024. It's
they're not HD quality.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, on new business, we have a couple different presentations to get us started. The first one is from Shay Brown and Sharima Young, which is for the Pennsylvania State Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Commission. And Sharima, are you starting, or?
Tom is here and we'll be starting.
Thank you.
Shoot, sorry.
Oh, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, can you hear us? Denise, can you hear us?
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
No, I don't think so.
Might have to change his speakers.
Technical difficulties.
Denise, can you hear us? Just want to confirm.
I don't think she can either.
She has her speaker on.
Oh,
One second.
wonder if they can see us.
Yeah. Unmute your mic.
Give me a second here, guys.
He's checking something. I think it's something different. Should I hold up a finger? Hold on. Hold on. Please hold. Did we lose internet or something? Are you able to send a chat on there? I was just gonna say,
You have a Sharpie, we can write it on a piece of paper and hold it up.
just say we're checking technical difficulties. Please hold. Please hold. We're checking technical difficulties.
Singing nearby. Nearby here.
What's
You live nearby here. You live nearby.
Kathy Alloway said she's an observer but could hear us.
It's off of Marengo Road, but it's
Okay.
in Centennial Heights.
It's okay.
She says her, she's unmuted, but we still can't hear her.
Used to be, I used to live.
Denise, are you talking? Can we hear you?
I just texted.
Oh, nope, we
I'm
can't.
not at the meeting. I'm like, I can't
Oh.
get any connection right now.
Oh.
So,
We jumped to something
give me
that's
one second. Can you guys hear us again?
Yeah, we can hear you again.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Okay, so I think, Shay, were you going to start presenting?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, no. Can you hear us?
I can hear you,
Oh,
yes.
good. Yes, go ahead. You're on.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. On behalf of Governor Wolf and State Inspector General Miller, thank you to the township for inviting us in to talk about the Pennsylvania State Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Commission. Just some background on myself. Next slide, please. I actually was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and started my police career there in Maryland with the Maryland State Police. I worked 22 years as a Maryland State Trooper and left the Maryland State Police. The last 9 years of my assignment there in Maryland was with the Maryland Attorney General's office. I was assigned as a non-commissioned officer in charge of a statewide division focused on public corruption investigations, including misconduct of elected officials, police officers, executives, and government employees. When I retired from state police, I went into healthcare compliance and was hired in at the Maryland Department of Health, which is the state's largest agency, to be their chief compliance officer, and later on promoted to assistant inspector general in charge of compliance and auditing in that department. So a little over a year ago, I guess in the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic struck, I was asked to be the special safety and compliance officer for the governor's coronavirus mandates and ensure that the healthcare facilities, our nursing homes, our assisted living facilities had we're doing all the proper procedures to protect the residents. And that was a very challenging position, and I was happy to be involved with it and have an opportunity to impact that. Then sometime in May of 2020, the George Floyd incident occurred. And when that occurred, Governor Wolf decided that there needed to be some action taken as far as creating a citizen-led commission that could look at the efforts for police reform. So that executive order was signed in July of 2020 and became effective October 15, 2020. I decided to apply and was appointed as the Deputy State Inspector General for Law Enforcement Oversight here in the Commonwealth, and also appointed as the chairperson of this commission. Next slide, please. So the commission has jurisdiction. I think that's important to know here in the as we talk about the statewide jurisdiction and our local township jurisdictions. The law enforcement agencies that are under the governor's jurisdiction and included in the executive order are known as the covered agencies, and that includes the Pennsylvania State Police, the Department of General Services, Capitol Police, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Park Rangers, the law enforcement subunits of the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, and Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Adult Law Enforcement. Next slide, please. The overall purpose of our commission is to improve policing practices within law enforcement agencies under the governor's jurisdiction. The commission is comprised of Pennsylvania citizens focused on promoting transparency, fairness, and accountability among the Commonwealth state law enforcement agencies. And they do this by examining events and conducting reviews of the policies, practices, and procedures of those agencies. Now, the governor was very insightful to put together the ex officio members of this commission that could really aid us in providing the resources and the access to the decision makers in order to sort of make our recommendations work, make the things that the commission would eventually recommend have an opportunity to be implemented and sort of impact the citizens of the Commonwealth. So among the group of people that are appointed to our commission is Gregory Schwab, who's the general counsel for the Commonwealth, Robert Vanchik, who's the commander of Pennsylvania State Police, the commissioner of Pennsylvania State Police, You have Joseph Jacob. Chief Jacobs is the Capitol Police Chief. You have Cindy Adams, who's the Secretary of the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Charles Ramsey, who's the Director of PCCD. And Jalila Parker, who's the Governor's Office appointment, one of the chiefs on the with the Governor's Office. Next slide, please. And among the appointees were also our 21 voting members who are all citizens of the Commonwealth. And I was very fortunate to have the citizens that have been appointed to this commission with their knowledge and experience, and they're truly like my dream team of folks you would want to look at sort of the Commonwealth and its law enforcement agencies to have their extensive experience impact the decision-making process with the Commonwealth's law enforcement agencies. Among them are Professor Sonnenschein, who's a Temple Law School professor, has been teaching law for over 40 years. You have Dr. Suresh Kanagaraja, who's a community leader at Penn State, a professor at Penn State. Kelly Hodge, who's a former public defender and district attorney. You have Denise Ash, who's CEO of Montgomery County OIC. One of our new members, Kiera Bradford Gray, she's a former public defender in Philadelphia. Jeffrey Wilson, who's leading the Citizens Police Review Committee out in Johnstown, and Elizabeth Pittenger, who's also leading a citizen commission out in Pittsburgh. We have Brenda Tate, who's a former Pittsburgh police officer, Joshua Attorneys, who's an attorney. We have Marissa Williams, who's community outreach out in Pittsburgh area. Bishop Curtis Jones, who's senior pastor at New Life Spiritual Revival out in Erie. Honorable Eric Coolidge, who's a commissioner in Tioga County. And on this call, Sharima Young, who's director of Penn State Government and Community Relations in our Troop G area. Spiro Lapis, Dr. Spiro Lapis, he's an attorney in the Harrisburg area. Slide. Then we have Andrea Sanders, who's a radio talk show personality and also business owner consultant in Troop K Philadelphia area. Marvin Boyer, who's political action chair at NAACP and also one of the assistant directors of the Lehigh Valley Justice Institute. Dr. Marilyn Brown, who's a peer mediator in the Strasburg area. Sean Walker, who's a pastor at Shiloh Baptist Church in Troop P's area. And Krista Summers, who's executive director at Catherine McCauley Center in Troop R. So the authority and responsibility of these members, what they're assigned to do as volunteers with us, is we're authorized to perform reviews of covered agencies' completed internal investigative findings. So as they complete investigations, they are then fall under the jurisdiction of our commission, and we have an opportunity to look at allegations and incidents of use of force and bias-based policing in the following categories. The commission will look at all investigations of police-involved shootings resulting in injury or death of civilians conducted by one of our covered agencies. We'll have the opportunity to look at a representative random sampling of investigations of lower-level use of force resulting in injury or death, including arrest and control techniques, baton strikes, conducted energy weapon deployments, chokeholds, that sort of thing. Thirdly, we have all investigations related to allegations of racial or ethnic discrimination and other bias-based policing or external complaints of bias or discrimination during interactions with covered agencies, law enforcement officers. But it's important to know what the purpose of our review is within that authority and responsibility. The purpose of the review within the defined scope is first to determine whether those internal investigations were prompt, fair, impartial, complete, and performed in a manner consistent with applicable policies. Was the investigation done appropriately? And secondly is whether the findings and discipline were reasonable under standard law enforcement protocol on the adjudication side of things. And then lastly, and most importantly, to the extent that the review identifies a perceived policy or training deficiency as we go along, the commission shall provide a recommendation to correct the deficiency for consideration by the covered agencies. And this is where the steps of reform come into play. I'm going to go back just one. Can we go back one? So the Policing Act models its reviews after the Sentinel event review process. This refers to critical incident type reviews. And these reviews are not designed to judge if participants are blameworthy or liable. It's important to know that none of the commission's reviews focused on the officer's actions. It really focuses on the department's response to what the officer did. And those determinations are made by the covered agency's internal investigations and are prosecutor reviewed by local district attorneys as far as judging whether or not the person, the officer involved is blameworthy. So that's not something the commission does. That's something that you would see done by the internal investigation, their administrative process, or the local district attorney and state attorney general when it comes to criminal, potential criminal charges and that sort of thing. What we're seeking to understand are the factors that contributed to the event and prevent similar outcomes in the future. That's really what the commission's goal is. It's about reform and it's about prevention of similar incidents from happening in the future, like a George Floyd type of incident. So how does our reviews kind of differ from what a criminal investigation is or what an internal agency investigation would be? Criminal and our other internal investigations have a backward-looking focus as they're evaluating the officer's culpability and then applying sort of criminal or administrative discipline if that's warranted. The police act reviews are really forward-looking focus, as we're not really looking back to sort of assess any blame against the officer. We're really looking to, okay, this was a negative outcome for everybody's sake. We want to try to see what we can do to not put anyone in a position to have these negative outcomes in the future. The idea of it really is all about prevention. So that's really all about the commission so far. I think it's important to know what we're doing right now. Right now, our commission, I've created 3 committees who are working through that review process. We have our critical incident committee who's investigating those police-involved shootings. We have our use of force committee who's looking at those lower level uses of force incidents. And then we have our bias-based policing committee who's examining those incidents of complaints of discrimination or bias among our covered agencies. We are really moving forward as far as that process, really have a lot of solid recommendations that are going to be put in place as far as what's going to go forward. We look forward as this thing develops in bringing in some of the local townships and that sort of thing, so we can have the ability to potentially have MOUs in the future where a local township might want the commission to come in and be able to look at an incident that's closed and see what sort of recommendations that the commission can come up. That's something that we're looking forward in a hopefully not too distant future that we'll be able to do. But right now, I think we're well on our way to having some recommendations and, more importantly, implement some things that will really affect and improve law enforcement services in the Commonwealth. So that's what we're looking to do. Is there any questions about the commission or what we're doing?
Bob.
I think you kind of touched on the answer there at the end, but am I correct in that local police departments do not fall under the covered agencies unless they reach out to you?
That's correct. So what happens is the governor only has authority over those executive agencies, so there's 4 or 5 agencies.
Yeah, the state agencies.
And because of the creation of our commission was by executive order and not sort of a legislative mandate, then we're kind of, our scope and what we can do as far as jurisdiction is really limited to what the governor has jurisdiction over.
Okay.
As far as law enforcement agencies go. So one of the proposed ideas was that we could gain that jurisdiction by if someone came to us and wanted to have an MOU with our agency and bringing us into the situation as far as doing evaluations and that sort of thing. And that's something that we're looking to work for in the future. And also concurrently with that, working on getting some sort of legislative process going so that way it can be, officially put in place throughout the Commonwealth as opposed to just an executive order.
Yeah, I think that's an important step. I feel as though our state police are probably better trained than some local departments, and that's where you're going to have the some of the bigger problems that this type of organization should be looking at. So, but anyway, that's all I have.
And because we don't have our own law enforcement and we
Exactly.
do utilize the state police, any findings and suggestions that you have for that would benefit Halfmoon Township as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure. Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much for taking the time and explaining what your role is and the amazing work that you are all participating in. And we look forward to any kind of updates that Sharima you would like to bring to the township. Or Shay, you. Thank you.
Sure. Anytime you want me to come back, just let me know. I'm always available to you. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Sharima. All right. Next up, we do have another presentation and discussion about our local libraries. So we have Denise, is it Stitcha? Stika, thank you, is the director of the Center County Libraries, and Lisa Rives Collins, who's the director of SCLO Library. Did you plan who was going first or how we wanted to do this?
We're gonna do this tag team.
Come on up, yes.
Which is actually the perfect example.
Wonderful.
I would also like to introduce Carl Englesby, who is the Center County Library's board treasurer secretary. And joining us by Zoom is Helen DeFilippis, who is our board chair.
Wonderful. And while you're coming up there to sit, I'll just say that every once in... Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
This is Helen saying hello. I don't have great video feed, but I'm here as well. Thank you for having us.
Sure, thank you. So I just wanted to kind of introduce this. We often have questions, and this comes up every year, every couple years, around the participation in our local libraries, of course, funding for our local libraries, and just trying to get a better sense of how it all works together. And so it is very nice to see you, Denise, too, because I don't know in the years that I've been a supervisor if we've ever had anyone from the Center County Libraries actually come and talk to us, and we haven't reached out either. So it is very nice to have both of you so we can get a nice collective view of how the libraries operate for us. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and to kind of unpack how it all works, because while you might think it's pretty straightforward, it's not. In almost any industry or any profession, it has all those nuances. I'd also like to start off with sort of a full disclosure that I am a Halfmoon Township resident. I live on James Hill Road. My husband has been there since the mid-1990s. I moved here in April of 2018 when I took the position of Executive Director of Center County Library's Historical Museum. So I haven't been here nearly as long as most of you have, but I am a Halfmoon Township resident, and I'm really excited about the logo. So there we go. Anyway, Center County Library and Historical Museum has our main offices in Bellefonte, and we are celebrating, actually we celebrated our 80th anniversary in 2019, right when COVID hit. We serve 29 municipalities in Center County, all of the municipalities outside of the Center region. To do that, we have our main library in Bellefonte, a branch in Center Hall, which serves the Penns Valley region, a branch up in Phillipsburg, our Hort Memorial Library. We have our genealogical and research collection in the historic Miles Hume House in downtown Bellefonte, which was the original library. This collection houses all of the old county land deeds, property records, birth certificates, death certificates, cemetery records. It is a research genealogical collection, and we pride ourselves very much on both the building that our offices are in and also the collection that we have and we make available to all of the residents of Center County. In addition to that, we have the Bookmobile. And our bookmobile has been on the road since around the 1940s. So, not the current one. The current one has been on the road since 2008. And this past year, we've had some changes that we had to do with the bookmobile program. The bookmobile itself makes 19 stops around Center County. The stop that we have here at Wave Fruit Farm is the only stop that we make that is not within our service area. Okay, and Lisa's going to kind of explain a little bit about how that evolved. But we had to pull it off the road when we all closed for COVID. And then when we went back to public services, our bookmobile driver, who had been with us for many, many years, decided to take that opportunity to retire. So he retired, and we decided that that would be a really good opportunity to pull it off the road to do some major automotive and body work repairs to it. So we did that, and then we got it back on the road with a new driver, probably around the spring of this past year. We know we need to make some changes to the bookmobile program, but we're not really in the position yet to do that. And there are some interesting opportunities that we can explore, particularly with SCLO. But just to kind of give you a heads up about the stop here at Way Farm, it comes every Monday from 10:30 to 12:30, which is not like a really great time. You kind of have to be at home and not at work or not at school in order to make use of the bookmobile service. That being said, it is our most populous circulation. It constitutes 16% of our total bookmobile circulation, the number of items that get checked out on the bookmobile.
Let's stop here at Wait for Farm.
Yeah. The second most popular one is the one that we do in Blanchard. And that has 15% of our total circulation. It's the second highest in our foot traffic, meaning that the number of people that onboard and get off, that's about 12% of our total foot traffic, and the Blanchard stop is about the 30%. So that being said, that kind of gives you a sense that there's not a lot of people that actually use our bookmobile. And that's, as a board, we have a lot of other issues that we have to prioritize, but we all know that we need to make some changes to our bookmobile program because it's a service that we really know reaches out into the parts of the county that have transportation issues, that have internet access issues. I mean, it's a service that we know needs to be a little bit revamped. We're just not ready to quite do that yet. So that's just a little bit about that. We also make a stop in Port Matilda. That's the next closest one. So our Monday morning, we make our first stop at Continental Courts on the way out from Bellefonte. We park the bookmobile in the county lot in Milesburg. And on Monday, it stops first at Continental Courts, then it comes here to Way Farm, then it goes up over the hill to the Baptist Church in Port Matilda. Both Continental Courts and the Port Matilda stop are not really high, but you can imagine, I mean, we're still doing it in the daytime, where it's a 9 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday operation. So a little bit about the funding that we get, and Lisa's going to talk a little bit about the funding that SCLO gets, but we get 27% of our budget from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania through a state appropriation called the Public Library Subsidy. And then we also get 38% of our budget as an appropriation from the county commissioners. Those two chunks of money come to what is called the Center County Federation of Public Libraries, which includes SCLO Library and Center County Library. So there's 6 service outlets within our federation. The state and the county give the money directly to the federation, and then we use a formula to then divide the money between SCLO and Center County Libraries. But our share of that money is 27% of our budget, and 38% of our budget is county funding. Our local funding is really low, our local municipal funding, and that includes the money that Halfmoon Township gives us. And that's 8% of our budget. And our budget last year, just to give you some percentage, was about $850,000. So we're not quite at $1 million, we're kind of underneath that. We make up the difference with that through grants, fundraising. We are a United Way partner agency, and we get money from United Way. We do an annual campaign. We look for other grants. So, while we're not well-funded, I would say we do what we can with what we get, and we're very appreciative of the support that we get from all of our municipal partners. Let's see what else I can tell you about that. So in preparation for this visit, we went back through our records to see when we could figure out when Halfmoon Township first started to give money to Center County libraries. And we went back as far as 2006. And you were giving us money back in 2006. The only year that you did not give us the $3,500 that you so generously give us now was in 2013. And I don't know why that might have been, but it came back the following year, so it must have just been, a tight year maybe that year. That happens. So we use those funds to help run the Bookmobile program. And I want to just go back a minute to that 8% of our local municipal support. When you look at the 29 municipalities that we serve, a lot of them are in very small rural communities, and it's hard for them to come up with what they can. Our goal has always been to get 100% of our municipalities to give us something, and we're not there yet. I would say Bellefonte Borough and Spring Township are our two largest municipal supporters. Phillipsburg is another municipal supporter, and the rest of it is just kind of about the same amount or much less than what Halfmoon Township gives us. So I can certainly understand in your position as borough supervisors, township supervisors, why you're concerned about giving two pots of money to two different library organizations. We understand that. So, that's a decision that you have to make on what is in the best interest of the residents of Halfmoon Township. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who's going to tell you how the other half of the organization works.
So my name is Lisa Reeves-Collins. I'm the new director at SCLO Center Region Library. I've been in the director's position a little over 6 months, so I'm still learning all of my numbers, still getting a chance to meet people for the very first time. But I also, full disclosure, before I came to SCLO in 2008, I actually worked from 1999 to 2008 for the Center County Library as their head of technology and also their head of technical services. One of my duties was actually working on the Bookmobile with the Bookmobile collections. So I have to say I'm a big fan, and I also know a little bit about sort of how all of this sort of comes together. Denise and I really look at everything that we do as an opportunity to make services for every person that lives in the county better. And so I'm going to go through tonight, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, what's SCLO's service area, what's our funding look like, and then what is the Halfmoon Township usage of those things that we offer to your community. So as far as service area, and I'm sure that all of you have this, in your memory just like that because you're so involved in all the COG meetings and that type of thing. But we serve Halfmoon Township, College, Ferguson, Harris, and Patton Townships, as well as the State College Borough. So whereas the Center County Library is serving many of the rural townships and boroughs, we're serving many of those areas that have a large density of individuals, including Halfmoon Township. Each municipality pays according to a percentage of library use, and that is determined by a COG funding formula. Now, the really important thing to remember here is that the usage that we sample and the usage that we report to you and that's used in the COG funding formula is actually only just a little tiny sample of all the services that we provide. So what we actually do is, that's physical checkouts, that's the little sample, and that's physical checkouts of our collection of 157,907 items as of today that your community has access to, which is amazing. It does not include electronic material checkouts. It does not include library program attendance. It does not include database use, our business development resource use, reference questions, technology help support, which many of your community members do use, and many other services that we provide. It's a piece or a little view of all of those services, a sample of all of those services that your residents are using. Finally, I should let you know that SCLO does limit some of the more costly uses of our electronic resources to only those individuals that live in a municipality that within the COG that pays additional funds for some of those high-level services. There's not many, but there are some because they are so expensive, and we really had to make that really difficult choice. We're always looking for ways to include our Federation partner, look for grant opportunities to make sure that we can offer those countywide, but I wanted to be very transparent that a couple of those do exist. For funding, so SCLO Library is only able to provide the volume of materials, the e-resources, the children's and adult programming, because we receive strong municipal support. 56.8% of SCLO's budget is from municipal support. State support for SCLO is 15% of our budget. County support for SCLO is 5.4%. We also do a tremendous amount of fundraising. We're very, very dedicated to that. We reach out to all of the users, all of the community members, and we believe people they vote with their support. They vote with their dollars that they donate to us. 10.5% of our budget is gifts and fundraising. Which I think shows that many, many people value the library and are using the library. State funding, as Denise said, comes directly to the Center County Federation account, and it gets distributed to both SCLO and the Center County Library per a funding formula that was agreed upon by the SCLO Library Board, the Center County Library Board, and our combined Center County Federation Library Board. There are 3 types of state aid, and 2 of those types are split in equal portions to the Center County Library and to SCLO Library. However, there's an additional type, and what we do with that is we split it actually by the number of outlets. So in that case, the Center County Library receives 5 outlets. They receive 5 portions. SCLO Library with 1 outlet receives 1 portion. And we do that because we believe in the equity of library services no matter where you live. And having a variety of different outlets throughout the county makes us all a better county, and I think really makes it a wonderful place to live in Center County. SCLO is also the state designated district library center, serving the public libraries of Juniata, Mifflin, Center, and Clearfield counties. It receives funding to provide district services that includes some of the services that your municipalities, your municipal users really, really love, including the interlibrary delivery of materials, technology support, including the Zoom that you're using, which is fabulous, and also our very popular Overdrive ebook and e-audiobook platform. We partner with the State College Area School District to offer the SCLO to School program, where SCASD students and staff, we changed that during COVID because we need to really support our teachers. We need to support our teachers and all of those individuals that are helping our children in these very, very difficult times. We work with them, and they can put their library materials on hold, and then the State College School District picks them up at the library and delivers them to each of those schools, which is a fantastic program that we would like to see, really go to libraries across the country if possible. We also have a very successful homeschool support program, which is something that we're very proud of. We have an individual on our staff who is a former homeschooler, and she does an incredible job of making sure that our homeschooling families have access to the resources they need to ensure that their children can meet all of the different standards that they need to meet as a homeschooling family. So when it comes down to Halfmoon Township Patron Statistics, so in 2021, 459 out of the 3,413 items circulated overall on the Bookmobile at all of their stops are SCLO items. That's 13.4%. This is the power of what we do. They're SCLO materials that are going to the Center County Library Bookmobile. We couldn't get the Bookmobile out to some of those places, but we can get our materials to the out through the Bookmobile. The Bookmobile and the Center County Library don't have as large of a collection that we have, But because we can move those materials, their patrons have access to this huge variety of resources that they can go ahead then and they can get, because we have the space to house a larger collection. And we also have more copies, for example, of different collections. So it's working together to serve everyone in the county.
Let me just kind of jump in for a real
Yep,
quick second. When Lisa is explaining that, we have daily delivery between all of our libraries. So we're moving materials every day
Every
between
single day.
all 6 of our locations.
Which is absolutely phenomenal. It's why when you go ahead and you put a hold on an item that you really want at SCLO Library, that you can pick it up at the Bookmobile. You know, we've really figured out how to make that work. That service that provides that connectivity to move materials around, that's a district library service that's provided by SCLO Library as the district library center. We provide it for Center County, but we also provide it for the libraries in Mifflin, Juniata, and Clearfield County, so they can do the same thing for their communities. So what does this mean here? 29 Halfmoon Township residents are Bookmobile library card holders, and this we ran today, so this is up-to-date information. 1,148 Halfmoon Township residents are SCLO Library card holders. Based on the 2020 census, there are 945 households in Halfmoon Township. Of those households, 682 have residents with a SCLO Library card. That means that 72.17% of households in Halfmoon have a SCLO Library card. That is amazing. That is,
It is.
amazing. I mean,
the standard is really about 30 to 40%.
It's-
And, you know, when I was working in other libraries, if we had a community that came in at 25% of their residents had library cards, we thought that was a good starting place. But 72% is amazing.
It's absolutely, I mean, when we were running the numbers for this, because we wanted to get the 2020 statistics, they just came out. We want to be bringing you real information that you can use and you can trust. And we were just incredibly surprised, but, and also I think, to be honest, moved. I mean, I grew up in a rural area. I grew up on my grandparents' farm. The library changed my life in the community in Illinois.
Yeah.
So I understand the power of having a library card and having all of these different opportunities. And to have that large number of people in your community with library cards, it means you have huge opportunities for your community, which I think is just, I mean, it gives me chills. It's inspiring.
I want to just add another clarification, because I know sometimes it seems like a lot. And when I've talked to other township supervisors and gone to borough council meetings, and we talk about the number of residents they have library cards, these are people who have used a library card within the past 3 years.
3 years.
The state requires us to purge our registration files every year we're purging people who are inactive for that past year. So this is current within the past 3 years.
And that's something that Denise and I both really believe very strongly in, is that standard. When we talk about our active users, when we are talking about those people that have access to resources, we're making sure that we're accurately getting information where they live, what township or borough they're associated with. That helps us when we're both going out to all the municipalities to tell the municipal story. This is what your community is using. But in addition to all of that, it's, I think, the right thing to do to keep reminding people, because everyone receives that sort of like, hey, your library card is getting ready to expire. Would you like to go ahead and keep it? And that's a choice that every 3 years we give to people. We send them an email. Now, if they do not have an email address, we do go ahead occasionally and send out the communications to them saying, paper, hey, are you still here? And then when we find, because sometimes people will say, well, people have moved out and everything. If someone's moved, if that information bounces back to us, if we don't get that email, all of those people go. And then we have all those people who are coming in during the summer and all to get new library cards, so it's a constant evolution. So speaking of evolution, what was the evolution that I know of Bookmobile services in Halfmoon Township? So how did we get to where we are right now? So the Bookmobile used to visit many, many, many places all within SCLO's service area. And I worked for the library when we were doing that. It was a lot of preschools. It was a lot of places that were very close to downtown. they were very popular. Why? It's very convenient. So that was wonderful. And the Bookmobile is cool. Come on, it's cool. I mean, I'm a librarian, so it's cool for me, but it's cool. It's really cool.
We won a $50 prize at the Grange Fair this year, so.
It's cool. But what happened is the directors at the time, and I think if it was Denise and I, we would have made the same decisions. What we recognize is that the Bookmobile is a very, very expensive resource to run. It has a high cost of running it. It's a limited resource, and that limited resource needs to focus on serving those areas of the county that are most remote. Those areas where people are driving 40 minutes to get to a public library. Or also those areas where there's very vulnerable populations, where you know perhaps that individuals do not have access to transportation, you have nursing homes, you have low-income preschools. It really needs to be focused on really helping everyone have access to library services. SCLO wanted the Center County Library Bookmobile to continue stopping in Halfmoon Township because at the time, in addition to feeling that it was still, a more remote area of our service area, we had fewer electronic resources to offer at that time. We had no 24/7 digital branch. We had no homebound delivery program, which, by the way, Bob, we have 2 people now that have said that they watched and they're going to sign up for the homebound program that live in Halfmoon. So that was the Library by Mail program. So I was really excited about that. And we had no plan at the time for any sort of remote pickup. So where are we going now? In addition, obviously we support the Bookmobile, but SCLO recognizes that many SCLO patrons are using the Bookmobile just to pick up their materials. They're picking up their SCLO reserves. We will be installing in the next couple of weeks. We've been working with Way Fruit Farm to install 24/7 pickup lockers. We're hoping what that does is it will meet the needs of the Halfmoon Township residents during those weeks that are without Bookmobile service or when they can't make it to the Bookmobile. We are going a very, very low-cost option. Why? Because we believe in stretching every single dollar, but we're confident with the SCLO Library staff and also with the Way Fruit Farm staff that we can really make something low-cost work really, really effectively. So we're excited that that's, they're ordered the lockers and, they're sitting in my office, which is really, really great. So, one of the things that Denise and I were talking about when we were kind of thinking about, when we envision, the county of services, what really are we talking about? And I said, it's kind of like thinking about a family, and these are some of the pieces that I know are stories from different families that I've heard from. So what's the patron experience? So you have a family of 4, and they live in Halfmoon Township. Mom works in Bellefonte. Dad works in State College at Penn State. Mom chose her library card location to be the Center County Library in Bellefonte because she works there and she wants to pick up her books in Bellefonte. Dad, he chose SCLO as his library location because he works in downtown. He's going to stop by on his way home from work and pick up his materials. They both enjoy the convenience of returning their items to the Brothers Pizza or the Carson's Corner book return service provided by SCLO Library, which, by the way, we pick up SCLO Library items, we pick up Center County Library items, we pick up Holt Memorial Library items. We don't charge per item. That's just as the Bookmobile service is a piece of what CCL offers to us, we offer the remote pickup for them and create that balance. Their teenage son regularly uses BrainFuse, which is provided by SCLO Library for live after-school homework help. Their college-age daughter has become really interested in her family's local history, and she goes to the genealogy collection at the Center County Library to find out more about that. The entire family enjoys walking outdoors, and recently they had a great time bringing their 5-year-old cousin to Autumnwood Park to do the story walk, which was a grant that we got together in order to provide a story walk program to different communities. So, organizational connections, what do we provide? Shared collections, shared staff expertise, shared technology, countywide policies. Our strengths at SCLO, the strengths of the Center County Library, all of those strengths really serving your community. And we're always happy to come out and talk to you about the services that your community is using. and also just talk to you about the services that your community might want that we're not meeting. It's really a conversation, always a conversation. So, did I miss anything on our
I
list?
don't think so.
Okay, all right.
We're a little bit excited about some of the new federal ARPA money that is going to be coming to most of us here in Pennsylvania. And we had a grant last year, 2 years ago, from the Center Foundation to buy 12 Wi-Fi hotspots. That we did this as a federation grant. So we have these 12 Wi-Fi hotspots, and they circulate obviously to 12 people every 6 weeks. And we have a major waiting list for those 12 Wi-Fi hotspots. So we are planning, Lisa and I are planning to do a grant application to increase the number of Wi-Fi hotspots. But that's an area that really demonstrates the cooperation that we have when we actively look for funding to do these kinds of projects, and we don't do these kinds of projects looking at ourselves in a vacuum. We do these projects looking at ways that we can leverage services across the whole county, and the county commissioners appreciate that, because when they make their appropriation to us, that's really important for them to understand and to recognize that the services that they're providing through their funding are really benefiting every county resident, regardless of what municipality you live in. So, questions?
Learned so much. So excited.
We could talk about this all night. I mean, we really could.
I mean, this is like our happy
I
time.
know.
You know? Let's
I
talk
do
about
have
the
one
library.
question. So this was
Yeah.
really interesting to learn. I knew about the SCLO funding, did not know about the Center County Library funding, and it's completely flopped.
It's a little bit
opposite.
right, completely
So
flipped.
my question is really around, maybe from the SCLO perspective, why is it like that? Is it because you get the funding from municipality that you don't get the funding, or like how did?
No,
how-
it's
why is it?
no,
The
it's
formula
not. Yeah.
that we use, both with the county funding and with the state appropriation, the two pieces that actually directly apply to that, we use population as the main source. And SCLO does get another pot of money which directly supports what the district services, which not only provide services in Center County, but the other counties that we provide service to. And then there's another pot of money that comes from a state appropriation that just stays with the federation. And that's called county coordination aid. And it used to be based on the amount of money that your county commissioners gave. And that particular part of the legislation has been frozen for a number of years. But we use that pool of money to provide the shared database and our shared circulation system and our shared registration files. So we use that money to do that. So that way, anybody in Center County can have a library card and use it at any library. You don't have to get a different card to go to a different place, and that's why our resources are all in one shared catalog.
In addition to a big piece of the funding that we share as well is looking at those funds to really create a wide area network. We have you can have the same internet speed that when you're at the SCLO Center Region Library as when you are in the Holt Memorial Library in Phillipsburg, and so that's another way that we're able to leverage larger funds. In addition, I would say that SCLO Library is able to do the things that we do because we also have really good municipal funding. Many of the public libraries that do not have good municipal funding have much more limited resources, much more limited opportunities that they can offer to their patrons.
Lisa, one thing I think that's helpful too is I think a lot of people don't realize until you have your library card and log on and go onto the online site and see what all you can really access, even just online, like the magazines. And I'm in a stock club, and we use the value lines all the time, the Morningstar value lines, and the business research in there, which I didn't even until we started looking around that we could really access that. So I think some of it is just getting people to know,
You're
consumer
exactly right.
reports and all the business,
The
the research.
plethora of
and all-
information
Yeah,
available,
'cause
yes.
if you click that research button, there's all kinds of different things you can access.
Well, and we're really trying hard to, we're picking each month a different resource to really highlight. And you've probably seen when you get sort of the municipal updates, you get from the COG that we're highlighting a new one. We're also making an effort with our board members. Sharon Ravancic here is your library board representative on the SCLO Library Board. And so we're making sure when our board members, they're educated about those resources, they're going out to the municipalities and they're really talking about them. We've had a lot of interest, especially after COVID, of individuals who really want to start small businesses. We have tremendous, tremendous resources for small businesses. We offer classes, we offer lots and lots of tools. The legal information that we have access to, that people can go online and they can get all the NOLO materials. Really, really just a density of tools for everyone, really. Something for everyone.
And I think figuring out like what those spotlights and what those highlights are, and maybe like getting some of those like little tidbits like in our newsletter or on our website or on our Facebook page, some things like that, or even on the local, just so people
Keep it
understand
fresh.
what
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
access. Yeah.
And we would be happy to send like a monthly tidbit, like, hey, this is all ready to go. You guys can just send it out to, anyone that you want to send it to. I mean, if that's, okay with you, Denise, we would, I mean, the more people that
They
know
understand what they
about,
can get.
yeah, it's like what do their tax dollars get them access to? It's
A
really
lot.
powerful, a lot, yeah.
Well, I'll say this satisfied my curiosity in understanding how you all work together, and it's very good and refreshing to know that it's not separate entities, and
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
that works together, and how the money is helping all residents, not just SCLO residents or Center County Library residents, but all of the Center County residents. So that's very good to know. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's good to
Any
see.
other questions?
I was just gonna add that it is good to see that you folks work in a partnership like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm just, because your presentation was great and very informative. My only question is, when do you plan to install the pickup boxes, the lock boxes?
In the next 2 weeks.
Yeah?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So yeah. We're trying to figure out. You can buy. I mean, they sell these very expensive, like $10,000-$30,000 things, and we're like, no, we can do this for under $1,000. So, but we need to get some concrete blocks. So if anybody has a resource, we need some concrete blocks to put it on. So we need to build like a little platform over at Way, on the porch of Way Fruit Farm, so we want to bring them up just enough so that somebody who might have trouble bending over won't have to. So if we can, we're trying to figure that piece out,
Yeah.
and as soon as we get that, then we're ready to go. So.
And we will be closely watching how those boxes impact traffic on the Bookmobile at the Way Farm stop.
Yeah.
We will be watching that. I am not really prepared at this point to say that we're ready to pull the Bookmobile, but I can tell you that our board has had lots of thoughts and discussions about our whole Bookmobile program, because clearly a Monday through Thursday schedule doesn't meet a lot of needs.
Yeah.
Right.
And that schedule's kind of been in place for many, many years.
Okay.
Well, not to mention with the technology in place now, you can go online, point, click, pick your book, and now we'll bring it to you and
Yeah.
put it in a box in your neighborhood. That really does eliminate the need for a bookmobile
Right.
for most folks that have
Right.
internet access, which is the vast majority of
Yeah.
people these days.
So the Bookmobile might change in operation
Yeah.
mode to be more of a senior citizens or a preschool
Yeah.
Lovely.
place. Although we do know that in a lot of the places that we go to, internet connectivity is very unstable. And we're looking at ways that we can put one of these Wi-Fi hotspots right on the Bookmobile so that people can come on the Bookmobile and print off their driver's
Yeah.
registration cards, or all of those things that you now have to print that you might not be able to do at home. So we're kind of looking at different ways to repurpose the vehicle, but we just really wanted to get it back on the road and get it running.
Yeah.
Without, we have some other issues that are priority in terms of our services, and the Bookmobile is just it's holding its own.
Yeah.
But the game changer could be these new hold boxes, because
Yes.
that's what most
exciting.
people in Half Moon are using the Bookmobile for in that very limited period of time.
And the more you can roll back the amount that bookmobile has to drive around, you're going to lower your carbon footprint. You're going to lower your costs, and I'm assuming it's a diesel. That's not cheap to run these days. You know.
I want to
How are the
see,
books getting to the lock boxes? I mean, they don't fly there by themselves, so.
they're
We actu-
driving,
Yeah, we actually have staff who live locally. So they're going to make that part of their sort of drop. And then we also have handy delivery that already picks up at the Brothers Pizza. So they would be also adding that.
So
to-
how often
to
would
their
they come by to drop at those boxes?
We're gonna see what the usage is, and it depends. So if we get enough that we need to kind of be doing it, every couple of days, then that's what we do. If we find that it's just going to be sort of a once a week thing based upon usage, so it's gonna be completely based upon what people want.
So explain to me how this works exactly. You get
Sure.
online with your laptop and you
Yep.
say, I want, ABC Book of Great Holiday Vacation.
Yeah.
And you say, well, we're gonna drop it off, next Thursday? Here's your 3-digit code for your lockbox. Is that how that works?
That's exactly how it works.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and then the codes will change, so it'll be secure still. So we're getting reprogrammable, locks to make that so it's safe and secure. That's exactly though.
And
how
it could
would
very
work.
well be a book that you want is a book that's at the library at Holt.
Yeah.
And so it'll go from Holt to SCLO to your lockbox out here by way of Fruit Farm. So.
Pretty cool.
And with the Bookmobile the Bookmobile comes once a week. And one of the things that we've been thinking about in terms of expanding Bookmobile service is adding more stops but making them less frequent. So instead of coming to the same 19 stops every week, we switch that schedule around, and maybe we have 30 stops, but we only go every other week. So we're really going to be watching how this lockbox situation works and how people are active.
On the hours, because they don't fit anybody that has a job, they don't
Right.
fit anybody that has kids in school. I mean, Saturday, if you guys had Saturday Bookmobile,
Yeah,
Oh,
You know,
packed.
or evening, like late afternoon,
Yep.
evening.
I know you probably can't find anybody to work, because nobody can find anybody to work anywhere anyways, but
But we have one driver, one full-time driver. He goes solo on the road. We were hoping to maybe do a 2 part-time driver situation, and that just really didn't work at that point in time, because this was like right around COVID. So we ended up going back, when we put it back on the road, with the same schedule. But if we had extra, my wish list, if we had extra funding, we would add another part-time Bookmobile driver and do the Saturday and evening stops.
I want to see if you all have any other questions, but I also want to make sure any residents or anybody from the public that has any questions or comments. Does any of us have anything else? Anybody online who has a question or comment for Denise or Lisa? Or us?
This is Helen,
Hi, Helen.
from the Center County Library Board, and I just want to say thank you very much for allowing us to present tonight, and just share that in my full-time work, I'm a community social worker, and some of my territory is the Halfmoon Township, and I support families out there with finding employment and bettering their lives and accomplishing goals to be active citizens in their communities. And many of those residents of Halfmoon Township utilize the free resources of SCLO or the Bookmobile to get employment, to connect with friends, to find free entertainment for themselves, for their families, and their individual entertainment needs. So I appreciate you letting us come and talk about that, and I appreciate you considering keeping your funding stable or increasing it for both. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes,
Can I
Kona.
just say thank you to the library, because I'm a preschool teacher.
Oh.
And one of the wonderful things that you have done for me is provide lots of access to books for children, but also puppets and puzzles and games and things like that. And The Bookmobile used to come to my school, and kids loved getting on there and just having the agency to choose books for themselves.
Yeah.
So thank you. I couldn't do what I do without you.
Oh, wonderful. I appreciate that so much.
We used to go to the Christian preschool as part of that stop, and we stopped that as part of COVID because they weren't having in-person classes. We're just now starting to revisit the idea of in-person storytime programs, and we haven't really done that yet with most of our preschools that we went to, but we are doing rotating collections. So we're putting books there in the classrooms and then picking them up later, so.
Well, you are welcome back anytime. We'll see if we can get a more official kind of regular update, whether that's once a year, twice a year, whatever that means. And I know Sharon's been doing a great job in Virginia before her to provide updates to us. So this was wonderful. It was a great foundation for us and we'll have it recorded too, so we can refer to anything in the future.
And as you start to work through your budget process, I mean, I know what that's like. I mean, I'm working on my budget right now. And you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. I mean, we're all in this together, and the goal is that we provide library services the best way we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
It's about the people. It's always about the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
very, very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate your time. We always like to let everybody know that if you want to leave at this point, you can. So don't feel bad about walking out at this time. For those who were just here for that presentation, yeah. All right, let's see. Next up on the agenda is Bituminous Aggregate and Equipment Award for 2022. Looks like we didn't get very many bids, did we, Denise?
No, we didn't, but what we did get is what we needed.
Yep.
So there is in your packets an overall chart of the bids, and then there is also a bid letter that was created, an award bid letter that was created from the engineering firm. So what I'm looking for is approval for the bituminous aggregate and equipment bids for 2022.
And since we got no bids for the equipment, what does that mean? Are you rebidding?
That means as long as we don't go over the 10,000, or I'm sorry, 20,000, whatever the threshold is for next year, that we can just use
Whoever we
whatever
want.
the hourly rate is.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions about the bids?
Are we missing any materials?
Nope.
So all the materials have been bid on that we requested?
Yes.
Okay. I move we accept the bid as reviewed by our engineer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I just have since we only got the bids from basically one company, how do these bids stack up to previous years? As far as, the cost, and I assume we're using about the same amount of materials as we commonly would.
We're probably going to have a little bit more this year because we're going to be doing some in-house projects.
Okay.
We're actually, as staff, tracking this year whether or not we even need to do a materials bid for the next year. Because if we're under a certain threshold, we may not even need to bid it out. It's just with the price of things going a little haywire lately, it's probably good to have a bid for this coming year.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there you go. Let's see. So the next up is the 2022 Board of Supervisor meeting dates, calendar, and permission to advertise that calendar. So really,
Yeah, I think you missed a bank
did I miss
account.
one? What did I miss? Oops, sorry about that.
D.
Yep, I did.
Yeah.
Couple different bank issues, and I think I remember one of these. But go ahead, Denise. You can introduce.
Okay, I have memos for it, but it'd be much easier if I can just kind of explain it.
Yeah.
We have two accounts with M&T Bank, and I want to kind of go through both at the same time. So we have our operating reserve account with M&T. That account has $489 in it, which isn't much. And rather than keep that account as is, what I'm looking to do is hopefully develop a capital improvement plan for next year, and then have, you know, a fund balance policy where we put so much into a reserve account. But I'd like to take that $489, close out that M&T account and put it back into our general fund until we come up with a little bit more of a secure plan than having to have another, that $489 you're signing off on every single month for the reconciliations, and it is an additional cost to print all the papers and everything. So this is more of a let's get it cleaned up and then we'll separate it out. The other portion of that is with M&T, we are currently depositing anything for a developer's escrow directly into the general fund. And that's fine, but it should be a separate account that's an interest-bearing account for tracking purposes. So what I'd like to do is we have 2 escrow accounts currently. We are tracking balances. One is for Gray's Woods something. Amy's got that. And then the other one is for Mark Maloney and Halfmoon Acres. We've got all the calculations of what we need. So what we'd like to do is take that money from the general fund and then put it into a developer's escrow checking account that's in the general fund, but just stays separate for tracking purposes.
Yep. Will that $489 that you put in the general fund still be tagged to remove and put into a reserve fund?
I wasn't going to. I
Oh,
think that's a
fine.
major asset.
Very true. So there is a motion, I'll read it if you guys are ready to talk about it, to authorize closing the M&T operating reserve account and transferring the $489.55 into the general fund to possibly create a savings account to coincide with the general fund in 2022. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion about that one? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that one's taken care of. Then the next one is to open a new developer escrow account. So the motion is to authorize opening an interest-bearing checking account for developer escrow funds with M&T Bank.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion? Questions? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Done. Thank you.
Excellent.
Now we'll talk about the calendar and permission to advertise that calendar for the 2022 Board of Supervisor meeting dates. So typically, just look at that to see if there's any major items that you want to change before approving to advertise.
Just make sure we're not messing up Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. And I think by looking at the calendar here, it looks like we typically advertise for the second meeting in December, but typically cancel. But it looks like,
And it looks like we're keeping like basically the same dates and same patterns for all the meetings. Are we keeping the same times that we, because are we doing 7 for this one and 6 for all the other ones?
I think you all were
Yes,
discussing
unless
that.
you want to switch to 6 o'clock for the board meeting.
No.
I think we talked about it and didn't allow enough
Okay.
time, and yeah. So 7 o'clock is still what you're thinking. Any other changes that you want to make on the calendar?
I have none at this time. It's kind of too far out for me to,
Yeah,
if it
if
doesn't
we're
butt up
keeping the
against
same
holidays or
nights.
something, I couldn't tell you what I'm
Yeah.
doing 9 months
There's
from
only
now.
2 things to really note. In January, there will be 3 meetings. We have an organization
Yeah,
meeting,
of course.
the first Monday. And then I left both meetings that would be regular meetings on there. And then in November, the only one that switches there is because nobody's going to have a meeting on Thanksgiving. We're going to move that one up a week. But everything else fell in line fine.
I move to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
awesome. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alrighty, you can advertise. Then, approval of, our next item is to approve the Public Works Laborer job description and permission to advertise for the position. So, I did have a couple items on the job description that I wanted to ask about. And I'm sorry, I'm getting in the weeds here, but I'm gonna do it. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th bullet down on the job description. So my only question is this, here's what it reads. Maintains and repairs township equipment, ensuring parts are lubricated, oil and filters have been changed, and other minor maintenance functions are completed, keeps vehicles and equipment clean. Whenever there's something that's like relatively specific like that, basically I was wondering if it could just say something like maintains and repairs township equipment according to established equipment maintenance plan. Or now I know that doesn't exist.
Yep, that's what I was going to say, and this was reviewed by our solicitor with changes. So this is,
So
I'm quite comfortable with it. So is the solicitor. It's very similar to what we had in place, but it does add in the fact that there are different requirements now for job descriptions, such as sensory environment.
I did see that. Yeah, I have no
environment.
comments about that.
So it kind of adds that portion in, and it's to give the expectation of what may be required, but is not all necessarily required. So it is specific so that it can give examples, but it is also that catch-all of all other duties as assigned.
Yes, I did get that, but those 3 bullets in a row, the maintains and repairs, the keeps parks clean and safe, and the general building maintenance, those 3 to me were, there's such as is listed in there, but I'll leave that to you. It leaves a little bit to be desired from holding someone accountable, in my opinion. But I'll leave that to you since you're going to be the one holding them accountable.
Make you accountable.
Yeah, we do. The other one that I wanted to ask about, is this the position, if I'm not mistaken, that is the safety officer or something to that effect? So what I'm what I'm not seeing as prominent here is that responsibility and what that entails.
So obviously we haven't had job description updates since 2010. This does have something on it where it does say holds monthly safety committee meetings and maintains compliance with safety committee certification.
And again, yep, I see that. And there's oversees parks equipment compliance improvements is a little bit of that safety thing as well. Just didn't know if it is supposed to be a prominent responsibility of a person, it isn't prominent to me. And I know we've been talking about it, but if
yes, because that is not something that I have a job description for yet. And also, we don't have any established policies for that. So at this point, I would keep that kind of separate. And then if somebody were coming into this, they would be responsible for that. But then we could add that job description when it's more clearly outlined and even update this one.
That is
fine. But I'm looking to actually advertise for 2 positions for road crew laborer. We are down to 1 road crew worker.
Yep.
And we are definitely in winter. So I believe it is time to start now to find something. I do also have a little bit of a contingency plan that we can put in place in the interim that we can discuss at the manager's report.
Lovely. Okay, those were my only questions or comments. Did anybody have any questions or comments about the job description?
We have a salary range for this?
18 to 20, depending on experience.
18 to 20 what?
Dollars
$1,000
per
or
hour.
dollars an hour?
Is that dollars?
Per hour.
Dollars per hour. Okay. Any other questions?
Did I hear her say we're looking for 2?
Mm-hmm.
And we have the work year round to justify that?
Did you hear that, Denise?
Yes, I believe that at this point, we will.
I'm a little concerned about necessarily having enough snowplow drivers. In the past, we've had some people working part-time helping out with the snow plowing. Do we still have those people, or we got different people, or what's the status?
We have a seasonal plow truck driver that's still available to us right now. I reached out to a snow removal contract company who sent me a contract late this afternoon that we can take a look at that and put in place if there's a need in the interim.
So as you said, you're going to tell us more in your manager's report, but you're working on contingencies.
Yes.
Any other questions about this job description? I will entertain a motion to approve and permission to advertise.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion?
I'm just.
Is this for 2 or 1?
You're asking for 2, so that's what the motion is, 2.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a little concerned it's too specific, and it should be more open to say, basically, whatever the manager says and whatever the roadmaster says, because we don't know what we're gonna get into. If I have to take the lug nuts off the truck, and somebody says it's not my policy, you know, we need people that are action people who can get in there and do stuff. Don't need a bunch of drones standing around taking up space in the shop. Going, well, I'm the safety officer, I don't have to drive the truck. So we need a catch-all on the end of that thing, I think.
It does say performs all other duties as assigned. That is always the catch-all on
Do
the
you
job
think
description.
if that'll cover it, then I guess that'll cover it.
That's sort of why I was making the comments about having, maintenance and repairs as according to the equipment maintenance plan, keeps parks whatever clean according to the parks maintenance plan, and then general building maintenance according to the building maintenance plan.
I think
That's
it's
what I
gonna
would
be
prefer to see in the job description.
hard to get a guy that runs a shovel, drives a truck, and knows how to do good mechanicking and that kind of stuff all at the same time. And I'm also a
They
little,
were,
thinking maybe the salary's a little low for somebody with that kind of talent, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, it broke up. I didn't.
Of course
catch
it
that
broke
name.
up, it always does.
He said the salary he thinks might be a little bit low, but maybe he's wrong, he said.
I will tell you that I reached out to the other managers, and a lot of them had advertised for road crew positions and hired. So they have provided me with people who are still interested, or they would have hired as second picks. And I've already talked to 2 people based on if the board approved this, but we do have interest already.
And that salary range is competitive with other similar positions in the region?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, do we want Denise to entertain changing these bullet items?
Well, I think what she alluded to, forgive me if I'm wrong, Denise, but this would, if we change something, it has to go back to the solicitor, and then that is more solicitor dollars. So,
I didn't do anything significant enough to change.
I didn't either.
It's not, and so it's a preference on how it. For me, it's a preference, but again, you're the one that's going to be holding folks accountable. So if you're comfortable with the way it's written, that's fine with me.
Yes, it will be discussed in the interview too, some of those additional items, so people know their expectations
Yes.
going into the job.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving and permission to advertise for 2 positions, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's everybody. Good luck. Next up
Thanks.
are all of the department reports. I know Brett had sent reports to us ahead of time. So I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions about treasurer's report, tax collector's report, building code report. Any questions, comments?
I have none. They all look pretty standard. And
Standard, yep. So Denise, then it's your turn if you have anything else for my manager's report.
I do. I don't have a written report, I have a verbal one. So I will let you know that we received our liquid fuels audit for the 2020 calendar year and received no findings. That's great news. I can send that out via email, but that did come in from the Auditor General. The PC, the Planning Commission, continues to review Maloney's plan with Half Moon Acres. We're expecting a plan with revisions coming in December, and the board will be viewing it in January. I contacted a company to do an IT audit for free for the township through PSATs. They will basically try to break into our stuff and tell us where our vulnerabilities exist. So as a free service, of course, they're going to want you to sign some sort of contract, but at the very least, it is a good opportunity to look into where some of our vulnerabilities exist. So we will be making sure everything has multi-factor verification. They're going to be checking to see passwords and, making sure nobody's password is password one. So that will be forthcoming. Additionally, I contacted our previous auditor, Meyer Dussel, and asked for if they had any services where they could verify or provide a professional opinion on the calculations for the American Rescue Plan funds as to what can be considered lost revenue. I did a calculation, and my calculation shows we can throw it all back in for lost revenue. But then the Treasury updated it so that there's some changes, let's say. And they also don't account for lost revenue in the fact that taxes were raised. So is it based off of what you would have received if taxes hadn't been raised? It's not even addressed in there. So I'll be presenting a proposal for that from Meyer Dussel, since they are familiar with the last 3 years of our, last 4 years of our financials. I expect it to come in somewhere around $1,100, which we can use the ARPA funds to get that certification. And lastly, I need to pull this up, give me just one moment. I received, I'm gonna pull this up on screen. I received this contract late this afternoon. From Keystone Construction and Earthworks. I spoke to Katie, who is a co-owner with this with her husband, Matt. Very helpful. They actually put a bid in with, I did not realize this, Ferguson Township uses some contracted services to clean some of their roads. So as an interim, I thought that we could set this up. I'll check with the solicitor. I didn't have any time to do that to make sure that this was okay, but she said she will provide us with a certificate of insurance and a W-9. This is based off of using our salt. The hourly rate is for the truck, the plow, the spreader, and the driver, and they can load their own trucks. I sent her our plow routes already, so she's familiar with them, and we can set this up so that we can work with the roadmaster if we do have a snow event before we can get somebody else in.
Lovely. Any questions? Sounds good? Anything else from you, Denise?
That is all I have.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the reports? Nope. All right. Our final reports for this evening are supervisor reports for any committee meetings that we attended.
I'm sorry, Dana, can I get permission to check with the solicitor about that and sign that contract so we have a contingency in place?
Yes, you need us to move that you take action on that?
Yes, please.
I would consider it a snow emergency.
What do you?
We don't have a driver, it's an emergency.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So I think what she's asking is for the board to agree for her to take action and go ahead and sign that contract so that we have that backup.
I'll move that to be the motion.
Is that a good enough description? Amy, did you get what that motion is? You seconded that?
Or I moved.
Oh, you moved it? Is there a
Give me
second? Who seconded?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you got it.
Thank you.
All right, so the supervisor reports, I'll go ahead and start. I went to, it was a joint meeting of the Public Safety Committee and the newly formed Land Use and Community Infrastructure. And basically that meeting they do once a year, led by Sean Kaufman, and it's really an update on all the emergency management services. So pretty much any type of emergency agency is invited, and it's not just emergency actually, because PennDOT's invited, Center Lifelink, the ambulance services, the fire services, and they basically just give an update on the whole year, how things have been going. It's a nice sort of get to see everybody's face one time a year. Here's how we support each other. So it was really just a lot of not presentations, summary updates of things. So that's what that meeting is. It happens once a year. Then my other meeting was climate action and sustainability.
I'm sorry to know
Yes.
about your last
Yeah.
one. Any chance that Port Matilda Fire Department and or EMS were in attendance?
No, because these are all covered under
Oh, it's
Center
only
Region.
that
Yeah,
one. Okay.
yes, Center Region COG. So the climate action and sustainability, basically we went ahead and moved forward the climate action, what's the plan called?
More acronyms.
The CAP.
Climate Action and Adaptation Plan.
Thank you,
Yes.
CAP. Yes, I was like, CAP, what does it stand for? Climate Action and Adaptation Plan is going to move forward. I think only one municipality still had a couple comments that they were going to provide, but that the general forum meeting this month, that is going to be on the agenda to actually approve and put in action. And then the other couple items on there were about refuse and recycling, which Halfmoon Township does not participate in that program through COG, so I just kind of tuned out on that one. And that was all that happened at that meeting. So I'm done. Bob?
Human Resources did not meet last month. Also will not be meeting in December.
Okay.
Executive Committee met today, and we forwarded the COGS 2021 budget to the General Forum for review and possible approval at the next meeting.
Awesome.
And you just touched on it. We also forwarded the resolution to adopt the Center Region Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. The only other thing I have would be the Upper Bald Eagle COG. Unfortunately, our last meeting was very sparse. We barely had a quorum, and it was a very light agenda. But I'm happy to report at the next meeting, at the first Tuesday of next month, we are finally going to be addressing the Port Matilda Fire Department's operating budget. John Witherite, he is, Denise, help me out, he is the fire chief, right?
Yes.
He has done a great job with the help of Denise, our manager, in putting together a long-range budgeting plan that they have not had in place for as long as anyone can remember. Basically, the way it's been described to me is how they've been operating is they get a bunch of money and then they spend it till it's gone, and then they get more money the next year. So they're really trying to put in a plan so they know the lifespan of all their equipment. I mean, it's not just capital either. But it really gives them a view to look forward. And our setting aside the fire tax has been really praised by the Port Matilda Fire Department because they now know how much money they're getting from us every year.
Right.
Where in previous years it was a sliding scale. It's whatever we felt like giving them. We are also, Denise and I have had a number of conversations over there at this point with different folks, and slowly it seems like some folks are getting on board with instituting a fire tax in the other municipalities of the Bald Eagle COG. So, baby steps, we're getting there. So,
Lovely. Patty?
The facilities meeting did not occur this month. It's gonna happen in December. There's gonna be a joint meeting to look at the bids for the Whitehall Regional Park that's coming in, so we're holding for that. Finance, today, we looked at the municipal comments coming back on the budget and went over everything and passed it to Eric and also approved that it go to the general forum, so that's good. So we're done budgeting for the year, so that,
Lovely.
So, I'm sorry, you did finance this morning?
yes.
Wow, so it was finance and then 2 hours later it was executive
Yeah,
committee.
yeah, because we passed it to the executive. and
Yeah,
then-
exactly.
Yeah.
Paper was still warm.
It had to all be done so that we can, so that the general forum will have it then
Yeah.
this month for the meeting. And then on Open Space Board, we accepted the application for the, for a 40-acre property, and that got passed on to the Planning Commission.
Excellent. Okay. I think that's all we have for reports. I had one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot. Last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, time is warping together for me. I can't even remember now. The Solar United Neighbors group had a solar tour event of Center County, and 2 houses, mine was included, my neighbor across the street as well were included in that tour, and we had about a dozen residents that came through to inquire about solar, ask about it, see it live. And I'm gonna say that 10 out of 12 of the people that came by were Stormstown residents. So it was really nice to actually just sit and chat with some of the neighbors for a while. And it was a gorgeous fall day, so it was a beautiful event. And I think all in all, there were some State College residents, Bellefonte, and I think all in all, there were about 28 to 30 people that toured the different homes and to inquire about the solar that they had. So it's just really interesting to know that a lot of people are interested in it, trying to find out about it. And this Solar United Neighbors group, I think, has about 78 members now. They're looking to get 100 members, and it's really just a purchasing group. It's a free group to join, and it's to help do group purchasing for solar if you're interested. So it was just really interesting. Just wanted to let everybody know it was a really good event. Anything else for the good and welfare? I will just announce that our next Board of Supervisor meeting is, and hopefully the last one of the year, is December 9th, and that is when we're having the public hearing to approve the budget. So if any residents have any questions about the budget, it is, I know, it's been emailed to those people on the email list. It's available on the website. Please go take a look at the summary budget. If you have questions, send emails, come to the meeting, but we're going to be voting on it on December 9th. That's all I have. Anyone else? Seeing no more business, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for